Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to GameSpot at E3 2016. I'm very happy to be joined by Taylor Kurosaki, Narrative Director at Infinity Ward. Sir, pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Danny.
We're here to talk about Call of Duty Infinite Warfare.
Correct.
It was wonderful seeing some of the single-player action yesterday. I'm a big Call of Duty fan going back. Recent years, like a lot of people, I've sort of like waned a bit on the single-player stuff and playing mostly multiplayer. But it seemed like there was a real great sort of breath of fresh air in what we saw in terms of the gameplay. What's it like having people react to that?
Oh, it's been great. It's been great. We've been waiting to show some gameplay to the fans, and I'm just glad we finally got to put it out there. And the reactions have been great. Yeah, we really wanted to put a push on the single-player component of the game, and really put a focus on narrative. You know, we really want to tell a deep, character-driven story about war. I mean, war is such an incredibly rich genre to work in, and so really what we were going for is the story of leadership and the burden of leadership. In most shooters, you are playing as the new guy.
Right.
And in this game, you're playing as a captain. You are in command of the UNSA carrier Retribution, and you have thousands of crew that you are leading into battle on a terribly dire day where the very survival of the Earth is threatened by an implacable enemy, the Settlement Defense Front.
War stories are difficult to do. I mean, often video games trivialize war quite a bit. You know, some games have attempted to sort of jump into the other side, like Spec Ops: The Line, for instance. How did you come to sort of tackle this? I guess pushing this into the future sort of does distance yourself from the burden of responsibility somewhat. But yeah, as somebody who's like, your core sort of job is to write a story about what is essentially the worst possible human thing. What's the sort of challenge with that? How do you figure that one out?
Sure. Well, we don't think we sidestepped anything with our setting. Our setting is really there to give us some really incredible new gameplay opportunities and some new mechanics that we just couldn't do if we were limited to ground.
Right.
But in terms of the story and talking about war, I mean, what war is it's an incredible pressure. It puts incredible pressures on people, and how they react to those pressures reveals their true character. So we're not sidestepping it, we're not trivializing it. These are soldiers, that is their job, that's what they do. And how they respond to these pressures that are put on them throughout the course of the game is what's really interesting. You know, as far as we're concerned, how they interact with their crew, and how they how they get through this.
What's it like? Are you guys working on one single protagonist this time around? I mean,
yes.
Yes. You are. What's that been like? Because I mean, a lot of the game, you know, it's not. You guys have done it before in recent years as well, but you know, oftentimes the war stories can be more easily told with different perspectives.
Sure.
So, what type of story are you telling this time around?
Well, our story is totally focused on the burden of leadership. You, like I said, you're the captain. You have thousands of crew at your command, and you have to not just fight for the guy next to you, which is a very, very common theme in war stories. Yeah. In this case, the mission comes first. That is the theme. The mission above all comes first. And that is the burden that only a true leader has to feel. Are we looking at some of this?
Yeah.
This
is hot action right here.
This is some of the stuff we showed last night at the Sony press conference. And what it's really showing you is you get to choose where your carrier goes. A thing that we're really pushing on is, if we're going to tell a story about leadership, well, you've got to be a leader. And if you're going to be a leader, that means making choices and making decisions. And one of those key decisions you get to make is choose where your carrier goes. You certainly have missions that are given to you by command, but you ultimately get to choose when you do those missions and when you put your carrier out there to take on enemy ships, targets of opportunity, and so forth.
So it's not a directly linear game then? There's some element of agency within that story?
There is. We're telling a very, very deep, immersive narrative that requires that it's an authored experience. So the overall arc is linear, but yet you do have choice to take on side missions, and you can learn more about the enemy. You can learn more about the crew that you play alongside. You can steal enemy tech. You can, again, this is a devastating sneak attack on Earth, And so the Retribution has not had time to resupply. So you're just scraping and clawing and trying to find every edge you can get to win this war.
Is a lot of that stuff, is it kind of come in the form of like optional side missions or missions within missions? How does it kind of work?
It's there's a lot of optional side missions that the player can choose to undertake or not. And we really feel that having that choice is what really gives people that feeling of leadership. We want to put you in those boots.
Am I right in hearing that Kit Harington is the antagonist in this game?
He is one of the faces of the enemy, yes.
What's that been like working with him?
He's great. He's great. I think he was really excited to finally get to play a villain.
Right, yeah. Apparently he doesn't like being a heartthrob much. Not something I could
really... It's tough,
really...
isn't it? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Poor guy.
Me too.
And I guess, how difficult... You've worked on, Uncharted and whatnot. You came from Naughty Dog. You've been sort of inserted into IW to help them tackle the sort of adding story to. I mean, they've always been rich single-player experiences in the Call of Duty franchise. But what has been your biggest, I guess, challenge in trying to add rich story to Call of Duty? Because these are essentially games about moment-to-moment bombast. So how do you find the time to tell a story within there without essentially creating just long cutscenes between each level?
Sure. Well, you have to make the time. But ultimately, the bombast and the set pieces and the action moments you talk about, that's what's so exciting about being able to tell a story in the Call of Duty universe. Those moments are so incredible and and so spectacular that if we can infuse real characters that you care about into those scenarios, then those moments are going to just play even better.
Do you think the player's going to empathize with the Earth that is happening? Like, how far in the future are we talking about? What's happening within this Earth economy that's causing this problem right now?
Well, what's happening is we have reached the end of being able to sustain the Earth from the materials that the Earth provides. We are out of, and this is all real stuff. In 50 years, people say we're going to be out of things like tin. And you need those kinds of materials to make semiconductors, for example. And so our jumping off point for the story was what happens, how does the Earth continue to sustain itself when some of those rare Earth materials have been used up? And it's been said that the first trillionaire will be the person who successfully mines an asteroid.
Right, yeah.
And brings those materials back to Earth. And so when you have that kind of money at stake and those kinds of stakes, right, the lifeblood of life on Earth, there's going to be crime, there's going to be greed, and there's going to be conflict. And so that seemed like the perfect scenario to set our game in.
How far ahead in the future are we talking about?
We're not talking about a specific year.
Okay.
The thing is, when you talk about a specific year, you'll ask one person, how far in the future do you think this is? And they'll say 20 years.
Yeah.
Ask another person, he says, it's 1,000 years. And so you can never, ever get it right. And so in the same way that's in the same great history of people like James Cameron, we just don't talk about a year.
Yeah. It's happening yeah. I guess the question I have in relation to that is, do cultures as we understand them today still exist?
Yes.
Are there Europeans and Americans?
Yes.
Because that's often a thing that in future sci-fi, those little touches make you sort of connect with characters in a way that you wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is, sure, we're not talking about the year that it takes place in, but it's going to be a relatable, recognizable Earth that you're going to see touchstones of in our future. And our crew of the Retribution, this crew that Captain Reyes has to lead, it's made up of people from all different nations, all different cultures and backgrounds, and they are all united together against this common foe. So we have people from Great Britain, we have people from, we have an Irish.
Yes, underrepresented.
Irish Marine.
Love it.
Corporal Brooks.
Okay, I like it.
Played by the lovely Jason Berry.
Wonderful.
He's an incredible actor and an incredible member of our cast, and he truly, embodies a soldier's soldier.
Yeah.
He's a guy you want fighting next to you when the Settlement Defense Front decides to attack.
I genuinely get a thrill whenever there's an Irish character. It doesn't happen very often, so I appreciate it.
I think you're going to like this one.
What else are you going to be teasing out over the next couple of months? It was great to see the single player. I mean, people are starting to get context for what this is in terms of the characters. I mean, ultimately, people never really connect with the characters until they play the game.
Yep.
What are you going to be teasing out over the next couple of months as we sort of ramp up to launch?
Well, our next big thing is going to be COD XP.
Right.
We're returning back to COD XP.
I was at the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, great to
Did
have
you
it
like it?
back. I did. It was actually I was way better than I was expecting. It was so sort of directed to the fans, and also it was weird to have Kanye West and Dropkick Murphys play on the same stage within a night of each other.
Yeah,
but it was cool. It was paintball and
it's going to be awesome. It's September 2nd through the 4th at the Forum in Los Angeles. And I can guarantee you it's going to be an incredible experience, and we're going to talk a lot more about multiplayer and about zombies and all of that stuff there.
Awesome. Taylor Kursaki, thank you so much for coming on stage and talking to us about Call of Duty Infinite Warfare.
Thanks, Danny.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
All right, you stick around. We've got loads more games coming up. Dominic Gay from Ubisoft is coming on to talk about Watch Dogs 2 in just a minute, so stick around. We'll be back in a second.